All right. I gave my bag to the boy, who scurried up, and told him to bring a quart of wild turkey and 2/5 of Bacardi Aneo to with a night's worth of ice. An IPA, though. And 2/5 of Bacardi with a night's worth of ice. Goodbye, sick. Good to see you. Our room was in one of the farthest wings of the Flamingo. The place is far more than a hotel. It is a sort of huge, underfinanced Playboy club in the middle of the desert. Something like 9 separate wings with an oh my god, I haven't read in like 2 weeks. Jesus, take the wheel. Smoke a bowl. Oh god. For Hunter S. Thompson. The place is far more than a hotel. It is a sort of huge, underfinanced Playboy club in the middle of the desert. Something like 9 separate wings with interconnecting causeways and pools. A vast complex, sliced up by a maze of car ramps and driveways. It took me about 20 minutes to wander from the desk to the distant wing we'd been assigned to. My idea was to get into the room, accept the booze and baggage delivery, then smoke my last big chunk of Singapore Grey while watching Walter Cronkite and waiting for my attorney to arrive. I needed this break, this moment of peace and refuge, before we did the drug conference. It was going to be quite a different thing from the Mint 400. That had been an observer gig, but this one would need participation and a very special stance. At the Mint 400, we were dealing with an essentially simpatico crowd, and if our behavior was gross and outrageous, well, it was only a matter of degree. But this time, our very presence would be an outrage. We would be attending the conference under false pretenses and dealing from the start, with a crowd that was convened for the stated purpose of putting people like us in jail. We were the menace. Not in disguise, but stone-obvious drug abusers. With a flagrantly cranked up act that we intended to push all the way to the limit. Not to prove any final sociological point, and not even as conscious mockery. It was mainly a matter of lifestyle, in a sense of obligation, and even duty. If the pigs were gathering in Vegas for a top-level drug conference, we felt the drug culture should be represented. Beyond that, I'd been out of my head for so long now that a gig like this seemed perfectly logical. Considering the circumstances, I felt totally meshed with my karma. Or at least I was feeling this way until I got to the big gray door that opened into Mini Suite 1150 in the far wing. I rammed my key into the knob lock and swung the door open, thinking, home at last. But the door hit something, which I recognized at once as a human form. A girl of indeterminate age, with the face and form of a pit bull. She was wearing a shapeless blue smock, and her eyes were angry. Somehow I knew that I had the right room. I wanted to think otherwise, but the vibes were hopelessly right. And she seemed to know too, because she made no move to stop me when I moved past her and into the suite. I tossed my leather satchel onto one of the beds and looked around for what I knew I would see. My attorney, stark naked, standing in the bathroom door with a drug-addled grin on his face. "You degenerate pig," I muttered. "It can't be helped," he said, nodding at the bulldog girl. "This is Lucy," he laughed distractedly. "You know, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." I nodded to Lucy, who was eyeing me with definite venom. I was clearly some kind of enemy. Some ugly intrusion on her scene. And it was clear from the way she moved around the room, very quick and tense on her feet, that she was sizing me up. She was ready for violence. There was not much doubt about that. Even my attorney picked up on it. "Lucy," he snapped. "Lucy, be cool, goddammit. Remember what happened at the airport. No more of that, okay?" He smiled nervously at her. She had the look of a beast that had just been tossed into a sawdust pit to fight for its life. "Lucy, this is my client. This is Mr. Duke, the famous journalist. He's paying for this suite, Lucy. He's on our side." She said nothing. I could see that she was not entirely in control of herself. Huge shoulders on the woman, and a chin like Oscar Bonavina. I sat down on the bed and casually reached into my satchel for the mace can. And when I felt my thumb on the shoot button, I was tempted to jerk the thing out and soak her down on general principles. I desperately needed peace, rest, sanctuary. The last thing I wanted was a fight to the finish in my own hotel room with some kind of drug-crazed hormone monster. My attorney seemed to understand this. He knew why my hand was in the satchel. "No," he shouted. "Not here. We'll have to move out." I shrugged. He was twisted. I could see that. And so was Lucy. Her eyes were feverish and crazy. She was staring at me like I was something that would have to be rendered helpless before life could get back to whatever she considered normal. My attorney idled over and put his arm around her shoulders. "Mr. Duke is my friend," he said gently. "He loves artists. Let's show him your paintings." No. For the first time, I noticed that the room was full of artwork Maybe 40 or 50 portraits, some in oil, some charcoal, all more or less the same size and all the same face. They were propped up on every flat surface. The face was vaguely familiar, but I couldn't get a fix on it. It was a girl with a broad mouth, a big nose, and extremely glittering eyes. A demoniacally sensual face. The kind of overstated, embarrassingly dramatic renderings that you find in the bedrooms of young female art students who get hung up on horses. Lucy paints portraits of Barbra Streisand, my attorney explained. She's an artist up in Montana. He turned to the girl. What's that town where you live? She stared at him, then at me, then back at my attorney again. Then finally she said, Kalispell, way up north. I drew these from TV. Here's a drawing of the hotel lobby with all the cops in it. I was covering up the best one. I drew those from TV. My attorney nodded eagerly. Fantastic, he said. She came all the way down here just to give all these portraits to Barbara. We're going over to the Americana Hotel tonight and meet her backstage. Lucy smiled bashfully. There was no more hostility in her. I dropped the mace can and stood up. We obviously had a serious case on our hands. I hadn't counted on this. Finding my attorney whacked on acid and locked in some kind of preternatural courtship. Well, I said, I guess they've brought the car around by now. Let's get the stuff out of the trunk. He nodded eagerly. Absolutely, let's get the stuff. He smiled at Lucy. We'll be right back. Don't answer the phone if it rings. She grinned and made the one-fingered Jesus freak sign. God bless, she said. My attorney pulled on a pair of white elephant leg pants and a glazed black shirt. Then we hurried out of the room. I could see he was having trouble getting oriented, but I refused to humor him. Well, I said, what are your plans? Plans? We were waiting for the elevator. Lucy, I said. He shook his head, struggling to focus on the question. Shit, he said finally. I met her on the plane, and I had all that acid. He shrugged. You know, those little blue barrels. Jesus, she's a religious freak. She's running away from home for something like the 5th time in 6 months. It's terrible. I gave her that cat before I realized. Shit, she's never even had a drink. Well, I said, it'll probably work out. We can keep her loaded and peddle her ass at the drug convention. He stared at me. She's perfect for this gig, I said. We can get loaded and peddle her ass at the drug convention. She's perfect for this gig. These cops will go $50 a head to beat her into submission and then gang fuck her. We can set her up in one of these backstreet motels, hang pictures of Jesus all over the room, and then turn these pigs loose on her. Hell, she's strong. She'll hold her own. His face was twitching badly. We were in the elevator now, descending into the lobby. Jesus Christ, he muttered. I knew you were sick, but I never expected to hear you actually say that kind of stuff. He seemed stunned. I laughed. It's straight economics. This girl is a godsend. I fixed him with a natural Bogart smile, all teeth. Shit, we're almost broke. And suddenly you pick up some muscle-bound loony who can make us $1,000 a day? No, he shouted. Stop talking like that. The elevator door opened, and we walked toward the parking lot. I figure she can do about 4 at a time, I said. Christ, if we keep her full of acid, that's more like $2,000 a day. Maybe 3. You filthy bastard, he sputtered. I should cave your fucking head in. He was squinting at me, shielding his eyes from the sun. I spotted the whale about 50 feet from the door. There it is, I said. Not a bad-looking car for a pimp. He groaned. His face reflected the struggle that I knew he was having. In his brain, with sporadic acid rushes, bad waves of painful intensity, followed by total confusion. When I opened the trunk of the whale to get the bags, he got angry. What the hell are you doing? He snapped. This isn't Lucy's car. I know, I said. It's mine. This is my luggage. The fuck it is, he shouted. Just because I'm a goddamn lawyer doesn't mean you can walk around stealing stuff right in front of me. He backed away. What the hell is wrong with you? We'll never beat a rap like this. I'll rock, please. After much difficulty, we got back to the room and tried to have a serious talk with Lucy. I felt like a Nazi, but it had to be done. She was not right for us. Not in this fragile situation. It was bad enough if she were only what she appeared to be. A strange young girl in the throes of a bad psychotic episode. But what worried me far more than that was the likelihood that she would probably be just sane enough in a few hours to work herself in a towering Jesus-based rage at the hazy recollection of being picked up and seduced in the Los Angeles International Airport by some kind of crude Samoan who fed her liquor and LSD, then dragged her to a Vegas hotel room and savagely penetrated every orifice in her body with his throbbing, uncircumcised member. I had a terrible vision of Lucy crashing into Barbra Streisand's dressing room at the Americana and laying this brutal story on her. That would finish us. They would track us down and probably castrate us both, prior to booking. I explained this to my attorney, who was now in tears at the idea of sending Lucy away. She was still powerfully twisted, and I felt the only solution was to get her as far as possible from the Flamingo before she got straight enough to remember where she'd been and what had happened to her. Lucy, while we argued, was lying on the patio doing a charcoal sketch of Barbra Streisand. From memory this time. It was a full-faced rendering with teeth like baseballs and eyes like jellied fire. The sheer intensity of the thing made me nervous. This girl was a walking bomb. God only knows what she might be doing with all that miswired energy right now if she didn't have her sketch pad. And what was she going to do when she got straight enough to read the Vegas Visitor? As I just had, and learn that Streisand wasn't due at the Americana for another 3 weeks. My attorney finally agreed that Lucy would have to go. The possibility of a Mann Act conviction resulting in disbarment proceedings and a total loss of his livelihood was a key factor in his decision. A nasty federal rap, especially for a monster Samoan facing a typical white middle-class jury in Southern California. They might even call it a kidnapping, I said. Straight to the gas chamber, like chessmen. And even if you manage to beat that, they'll send you to Nevada for rape and consensual sodomy. No, he shouted. I felt sorry for the girl. I wanted to help her. I smiled. That's what Fatty Arbuckle said. And you know what they did to him? Who? Never mind, I said. Just picture yourself telling a jury that you tried to help this poor girl by giving her LSD and then taking her out to Vegas for one of your special stark naked back rubs. He shook his head sadly. You're right. They'd probably burn me at the goddamn stake. Set me on fire right there in the dock. Shit, it doesn't pay to try to help somebody these days. We coaxed Lucy down to the car. I should have took my next pause right there. But I'm doing it now. What's the premise here? Bruh. We're like all the way through the book. Go away. All right, we coaxed Lucy down to the car, telling her that we thought it was about time to go meet Barbara. We had no trouble convincing her that she should take all her artwork, but she couldn't understand why my attorney wanted her to bring her suitcase along. I don't want to embarrass her, she protested. She'll think I'm trying to move in with her or something. No, she won't, I said quickly. But that was all I could think of to say. You need ego death is premise. Good Lord, somebody help this man. You're so wrong. Shh. The hardest part about a reading stream is listening to everybody's opinion on what you're reading as you're reading it. Like, I look up and somebody's like, actually, it's about ego death. And I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, I don't even know when this chapter ends, but God damn you. Emote only, but then everybody's like, oh my God, I can't type my opinions on the fucking book that you haven't finished yet in chat. I'm not gonna watch. I'm not even gonna listen. So, resident sleeper. Like, yeah, that's the idea, dude. I'm reading a book out loud. Settle down, children. What the fuck? I'm like reading the book and somebody's like, well, that doesn't sound like a very nice guy. And I'm like, good job. When does the hero save the day? And I'm like, never, kid, shut up. Leave this place. Thank you for subscribing. Okay, back to this. She's gonna go meet Barbara. I don't want to embarrass her, she protested. She'll think I'm trying to move in with her or something. No, she won't, I said quickly. But that was all I could think of to say. I felt like Martin Bormann. What would happen to this poor wretch when we cut her loose? Jail? White slavery? What would Dr. Darwin do under these circumstances? Survival of the fittest? Was that the proper word? Had Darwin ever considered the idea of temporary unfitness? Like temporary insanity. Could the doctor have made room in his theory for a thing like LSD? All this was academic, of course. Lucy was a fatal millstone on both our necks. There was absolutely no choice but to cut her adrift and hope her memory was fucked. But some acid victims, especially nervous mongoloids, have a strange kind of idiot savant capacity for remembering odd details and nothing else. It was possible that Lucy might spend 2 more days in the grip of total amnesia, then snap out of it with no memory of anything but our room number at the Flamingo. I thought about this. But the only alternative was to take her out to the desert and feed her remains to the lizards. I wasn't ready for this. It seemed a bit heavy for the thing we were trying to protect, my attorney. It came down to that. So the problem was to work out a balance, to aim Lucy in a direction that wouldn't snap her mind and provoke a disastrous backlash. She had money. My attorney had ascertained that. At least $200, he said. And we can always call the cops up here in Oh, we can always call the cops up there in Montana, where she lives, and turn her in. I was reluctant to do this. The only thing worse than turning her loose in Vegas, I felt, was turning her over to the authorities. And that was clearly out of the question. Anyway. Not now. What kind of goddamn monster are you? I said. First you kidnap the girl, then you rape her, and now you want to have her locked up. He shrugged. It just occurred to me, he said, that she has no witnesses. Anything she says about us is completely worthless. Us? I said. He stared at me. I could see that his head was clearing. The acid was almost gone. This meant that Lucy was probably coming down too. It was time to cut the cord. Lucy was waiting for us in the car, listening to the radio with a twisted smile on her face. We were standing about 10 yards off. Anybody watching us from a distance might have thought we were having some kind of vicious showdown argument about who had rights to the girl. It was a standard scene for a Vegas parking lot. We finally decided to make her a reservation at the Americana. My attorney ambled over to the car and got her last name under some pretense. Then I hurried inside and called the hotel, saying that I was her uncle and that I wanted her to be treated very gently because she was an artist and might seem a trifle high-strung. The room clerk assured me they'd give her every courtesy. Then we drove her out to the airport, saying we were going to trade the White Whale in for a Mercedes 600. And my attorney took her into the lobby with all her gear. She was still unhinged and babbling when he led her away. I drove around the corner and waited for him. My ass hurts really bad. This is a long chapter. "10 minutes later, he shuffled up to the car and got in. 'Take off slowly,' he said. 'Don't attract any attention.' When we got out on Las Vegas Boulevard, he explained that he'd given one of the airport cab hustlers a $10 bill to see his drunk girlfriend got to the Americana, where she had a reservation. I told him to make sure she got there, he said. You think she will? He nodded. The guy said he'd pay the fare with the extra $5 I gave him. And tell the cabbie to humor her. I told him I had some business to take care of, but I'd be there. I'd be there myself in an hour. And if the girl wasn't already checked in, I'd come back out here and rip his lungs out. That's good, I said. You can't be subtle in this town. He grinned. As your attorney, I advise you to tell me where you put the goddamn mescaline. I pulled over. The kit bag was in the trunk. He fetched out 2 pellets, and we each ate one. The sun was going down behind the scrub hills northwest of the city. A good Christofferson tune was cranking out of the radio. We cruised back to town through the warm dusk, relaxed on the red leather seats of our electric white Coupe de Ville. Maybe we should take it easy tonight, I said as we flashed past the Tropicana. Right, he said. Let's find a good seafood restaurant and eat some red salmon. I feel a powerful lust for red salmon. I agreed. But first we should go back to the hotel and settle in. Maybe have a quick swim and some rum. He nodded, leaning back on the seat and staring up at the sky. Night was coming down slowly. Thank you. Chapter 3, Part 2. One of the tougher chapters. You did well, though. Thank you. I had no idea what I was walking into. I knew that was coming up soon, or like eventually, but I didn't. I probably should have put it together that was the scene that I was reading today, but I was just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. My mouth won't read words because I haven't read in like 2 weeks. My throat feels weird now. Like, that was a lot of talking. You sound exactly like Johnny Depp. Thank you. Thank you. That was really difficult. Thank you. It's never good enough. But thank you, viewers. Thank you for listening. And watching. Can you do a Hunter S. Thompson impression? I cannot do an impression to save my life. I can't even fake a British accent. So, no.